opportunity to introduce my best friend, really. And the way we introduced ourselves to each other gives, I think, a little bit of an impact on the type of company that he's operating and running. He came to an event at my house, I guess, about 6 years ago, something like that, and didn't have any idea what he did, what his job was, or anything else. And he looks over at my wall, and my wife had a picture of their hotel, Casa Monica, in our house. And the impact and the joy of our lifestyle and what and the joy that we had staying there and being there and a part of that, my wife wanted that feeling in our home and brought that picture into our house. And so the first time I meet Fravy, basically that was the way we introduced ourselves to each other. And another way to give you an idea of what Kessler does, I think it was like last year sometime, I was watching a CBS Sunday Morning. Anybody watches CBS Sunday Morning? Okay. So I'm watching, and they got this couple that goes to all these unique cities in the United States, and they have so many great stories to tell about these cities that are changing themselves and improving and doing better things. And the primary story they were talking about was Greenville, South Carolina, where they had a highway going through the middle of their downtown. It cut off the innovation there. It cut off what they were doing. The city spent $8 million to move their highway outside of the city area because there was a beautiful waterfall that highway was going across. And in the midst of that story, we find out that there is Kessler helping and being involved in that and putting this beautiful boutique hotel right at that waterfall in downtown Greenville. So Fravy has been involved with Kessler, is it 8 years now? How long?
Yeah, 8-9 years.
Yeah, eight or 9 years. And taking a company that, with Richard Kessler, that has done a great job of innovating boutique hotels, but then also helping and assisting them expand tremendously to Charleston, Atlanta, doing greater things in Savannah. And so it was my pleasure to introduce you to a wonderful friend of mine, Fravy Colazzo.
So, Glenn wanted me to come up here. I know I stand, being the last person to go, I am the last. The only thing that's between you and getting home. So I'm going to try to keep this a little bit short, and then you guys can direct me in which way you want to go. I am a CFO, but I am a capital markets guy. I have our company, while we are hotel developers, I'm sure most of you have gone to our hotel, Grand Bohemian down in downtown Orlando, our one in Celebration. We have 13 hotels across the country, primarily in the Southeast. And when Richard started interviewing me, he's like, look, I am a developer at heart. People think of Kessler just as hotel operators. We're really developers. Richard is an engineer by trade, so his passion resides in building experientials and having people really enjoy his properties and his collection of art. Richard, tell you a little bit of story. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a little robust, quick idea of who Kessler is, and then I'm going to go into how we develop and the life cycle of development. I put a lot of details in the slides. I'm not going to go into all those details. I'm going to really focus on capital markets and how you guys can hopefully take some ideas of how we build value for our investors as well as ourselves. So Richard started as co-founder of Days Inn. If you guys know Days Inn started as two guys, Richard Kessler and Cecil Day, started Days Inn back in the 60s and grew that to one of the largest limited service hotel companies in the world. Cecil Day passed away and Richard took over, and at that point he was the youngest CEO of any national hotel brand in the world. He sold the company and traveled Europe, and when he traveled Europe he said, we're missing boutique hotels here in the United States. So he brought that back over to the United States. So here we are. Back in 1984 he started Kessler, and what we do is we build inspiring places. So we're all about curating experiences. We curate everything from to energize all the senses. And how do you do that in a hotel? How do you energize all the senses, right? We curate the smells. I mean, when you walk into our hotels, we have candles burning, all curated. Each hotel has their own specific smell. Our F&B offerings, that's, obviously the taste side. Music and art is the visual and sensory parts of it that we curate extensively. So again, that's who we are, what we do. We spend a lot of time and energies looking at how else can we do things that other hotel brands don't do. We have cooking schools. Like this picture here is our cooking school in Mountain Brook, which is a suburb of Birmingham. We have wine blending. I've never seen any other hotel company that has a wine blending class. You could go into our class, you become a sommelier for the day, build your own bottle of red wine, you take it home with you, you can order it from us, you label it, and you have your own private labeled wine, curated just for your palate. Right now we have about 1,500 employees. We call ourselves grant performers, not employees, because you have to have the right people to have those experiences come through. The biggest question I get is, what is Bohemian? Anybody want to take a guess of what Bohemian is?
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah.
No. That's a Busendorf. So in our vision of what Bohemian is about 65% classical European. So when you go into our hotels, you can feel that luxury classic. But then you also see a little bit of that gypsy part of it. So about 20% gypsy. And then the rest of it is the hippie. So you see a lot of very bright colors, way out there. So we have a little video actually that says what. Let me see if I can get this to play. It's supposed to do it automatically, but.
Bohemian isn't a label. It's a relentless sense of curiosity. A license to let creativity come out to play. It's sharing your art side with others, inviting cultures to connect, and finding new ways to appreciate the world. We celebrate originality and err on the side of unconventional. When we say we deliver the bohemian lifestyle, it means we inspire guests to challenge their plans, to find themselves delightfully distracted by the art that surrounds them, or to get lost in the stories each piece holds. We invite them to join us in the kitchen for cooking school, try wine blending, or taste something new on our menu. We give guest rooms a new soundtrack, and hotel stays a new story. Bohemian invites us to wander and creates moments to be inspired.
So again, going back to creating your identity, anybody can build a hotel. Anybody can build sound stages. But what really sets you apart is how you do that. How do you differentiate yourself from that? And that's what keeps people coming back to you. So again, we go back to our management company. So again, why do we build and why do we manage? That is very, very unique in the hotel industry. So in order for us to keep our brand standards, we have to operate what we build, and vice versa. In order for us to be able to deliver on that promise, on that inspiration, we have to build it right in the first place. So again, that's a little bit different edge that we have. I'm not going to go through a lot of these because so this is our portfolio of our hotel right now. This is just a few of them. Primarily focused on the southeast, very detail-oriented, luxury, upscale, full service. We focus a lot on food and beverage. So in most hotel companies, full service hotels, maybe 20-25% of your revenues come from food and beverage. We have hotels that actually do more in food and beverage than they do in room revenue. Again, extremely unique in the industry. And we do that by, again, really focusing on how we deliver that. So at our corporate office, we have a team of 4 senior executives that all they do is make sure that our menus are right, make sure that those menus can be executed properly, and then we have another executive that all they do is make sure that it's being delivered properly. So everything from concepting to how you cook it to how you serve it.
I have a question. The hotels, they're having a lot of revenue in the food
Yeah.
industry. Are you guys just catering to the clients to stay in the property, or to?
No, you can't. You can, if you're only catering to your in-house guest, that restaurant is just purely an amenity.
You got it like a storefront where people can come in from outside?
It's all about marketing and, word of mouth. I mean, restaurants, in today's world, social media is everything, right? So, it's all spread via word of mouth. I mean, we had dinner last night at the Grand Bohemian, and, we actually sat down at almost 9 o'clock at night, and the restaurant was packed at 9 o'clock at night. So it's all, again, if you deliver on your promise, people will come back. And again, you cannot just cater to your in-house guests. You have to be able to drive that outside business in. So. Yeah.
Are you guys a part of the autograph collection, or are you the autograph collection?
So, very, very good question. I forgot to talk about that. We're going through quick. So, again, we were viewed back during the recession, really, we were still viewed as the preeminent boutique developer. And boutique was, being taken in so many different ways. It's a word that's used way out there. It was during 2010, Waldorf came to Richard Kessler and said, hey, we want to start a new brand do a mini Waldorf. And we want you guys to launch that. Marriott got wind of that, and Marriott came to us and said, no, we want you to do that for us and start a brand. We actually said, well, we don't need you, we're doing fine. They said, we'll give you an offer you can't refuse. Long story short, we spent about 6 weeks in Bethesda, Maryland, and we created the brand pillars of what Autograph is today. So we co-branded Autograph with Marriott. The first 8 Autograph hotels were our hotels. Now there's 150 plus Autograph hotels across the world. We're still the largest franchisee and owner-operator of Autograph. So Autograph is just another brand, whether it's a Courtyard, Ritz-Carlton, whatnot. But it's considered a soft brand. So soft brands as opposed to full brands. On the soft brands, there's just ideas of what you can do. You still have to abide by brand standards, but you have a lot of flexibility on what you can or can't do. So if you notice, if you go into the Grand Bohemian, you'll see one plaque, that's it, that says Autograph Collection. You don't see anything that says Marriott, nothing. So it's really an affiliation and a soft brand. Again, we talked a little bit about this, about all the different, all of our properties have art galleries. We spend somewhere around, actually I joke with Richard that he actually creates the collection of art before he actually designs the hotel. So he actually, and I'll show you some of that stuff when we go through this. But so all of our properties have art galleries. Every piece of art at every hotel that we have is available for sale. So it's something that's very unique. We do probably collection-wide about 10 million in art sales every year. Again, obviously we're viewed as a leader in the industry. These are all Marriott awards that we've gotten since we joined them in 2010. These are all accolades from TripAdvisor and whatnot. But I really want to go through and talk about the development life cycle. How many of you guys here are in the development business? Just one? Okay. So a lot of these things are going to not mean a lot, so I'm going to really focus on the capital market side. So how we do things is we really look at what markets do we want to be in. We're primarily in the Southeast. We do have properties out west, but we're really focusing on growing our business here in the Southeast. So we really look at markets where we want to be, but we also have a lot of people that come to us and say, we want you to be with us. So I was I was actually just in at the Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville or Ponte Vedra the other day because they wanted us to build a hotel for them. So we'll see where that goes. But we look at where we want to be. Where we really succeed is in tertiary markets. One of the things that we like to do is to say we want to build hotels where people want to go, not where they have to go. What does that mean? Well, if people have to go there, they don't care where they stay, right? They don't care where they stay. They want to go there, they're going to really look and feel for what they want. So that's really another big thing that we do. So once we decide what market we want, we really want to look at the site selection. And we're not afraid to do things that are very difficult. I'll show you some of the stuff that we're doing right now. This is our project in Savannah. It was at the point in time when we bought it, this is what it looked like at the time we bought it. It was an old historic power plant built in 1910. It was the power plant that fed all power to the city of Savannah for over 100 years. And for 100 years, that site was fenced off. We bought it, and we're turning it into obviously it's a JW Marriott that we're doing. It's a whole entertainment district, 400 plus rooms, 13 restaurants, food and beverage operations, 25,000 square feet of meeting space, retail. It's a full entertainment district. Think about it as a mini Disney Springs.
Is it next to the Hyatt, or is it on the other side of the river?
No, the Hyatt is, that's the Hyatt right there. That's the Hyatt right there. This little building right here is our Bohemian in Savannah.
Oh,
But at the time we bought it, this was the largest piece of real estate in a historic district in the whole United States. It's about 4 acres, and I'll show you what we're doing with that. This is another one that we did. This one's in Charlotte. Our site is that little red area, which is like the size of a postage stamp, and we're building a 250-room Grand Bohemian there. What's cool about this is we've been targeting Charlotte for a long time. We've been looking for the A++ location, and it took us about 5 years to find that. This was a little park next to a Class A commercial building that we were able to get the owner of the office building to sell to us. And then this is our site right here in Greenville. If anybody's been to Greenville, you got these waterfalls right here that are unbelievable in the middle, really in the middle of the city. And everybody that goes to Greenville walks across this little footbridge. So the way that we're doing this project is it's going to look like you're in the middle of the forest, and you're really in the downtown area of Greenville. So really what I'm trying to tell you here is always look for A++ location. And we also primarily look at this, which is what I'm going to get to right now. So due diligence, what I can tell you here is make sure you retain the best consultants. That's what's really going to get you over the top. This was the inside of the power plant when we first bought it, so I put a picture of that. We're actually putting a dinosaur in the a huge 140-foot dinosaur in the lobby. So going back to tell the story, inspire people. What's the history of power? Well, the history of power started with dinosaurs. So we're doing this kind of as a natural science museum. So there'll be a lot of, fossils, fossil fuels, whatnot. So, once you start doing your pre-development and you finish, you got the thing under contract, again, one thing I can tell you is make sure you get a strong GMP. If you're a developer, that means a guaranteed maximum price contract. And you want to make sure your contractor has at least bought out 90% of that contract. If not, you can get royally screwed, to be honest with you. I mean, that's one of the things, like right now, the price of gypsum has gone through the roof because of all the development in China. Because we had a guaranteed maximum price contract for a project in Savannah, the contractor's taking it in the shorts, not us. So this is what I want to really talk to you guys, is really optimizing your capital structure. So one thing I recognized really quickly when I started doing this stuff for Kessler is we were in a different world in development. Hospitality in the old days, you can go and get a construction loan for 75, 80%. What that means is it's an easy capital structure. 80% loan, 20% equity, you're off and building. Well, after the crash going into 2011, 2012, at least in hospitality, that loan to cost went way down to like really 50%. So how do you bridge that gap? You can't do 50% equity. If you do 50% equity, your returns are nothing. So we had to go out, or I had to go out and really find ways to bridge that from the 50% to get it, again, back to that 75, 80% range. And so then I look at myself, well, we're a family office, right? I can't align myself with New York money, with venture capital money, with private equity money, because they don't have the same horizon as I do. And I don't want a gun to my head in 5 years when I have to take them out. So I went out and started looking for interesting ways to bridge that gap. And I'll talk to you about a little bit of some of those. So we're doing historic tax credits. So if you're able to do historic tax credit deals, you can sometimes get up to 45% of your capital paid for by historic tax credits. In the state of Georgia, on the federal side, it's always 20%. So if you do any historic project, you can get 20% historic tax credits. By state, it's different. In the state of Georgia, it's 25% for your qualified rehab, up to $10 million. So on this project in Savannah, because it's a historic rehab, I monetized about $30 million of cash to help offset my equity on this project. It's tough to do, but you got to do it. Now, the one thing you got to do is you got to be able to monetize it up front, right? Because if you're selling tax credits, which is what we did, we're not going to use the tax credits, we're selling them. I have to find a way to monetize them up front in order for me to use that money as equity. So again, there's ways out there to go in and bridge that. Opportunity zones, I talked a little bit about that. We're doing an opportunity zone. And how we do that is what's the incentive for the opportunity zone? I mean, the opportunity guy. It's to shelter taxes. So if they're in a 20, 30% tax bracket, they're automatically got a 20 to 30% return on their money. So they care about getting a return, but really what they care about is preservation of capital. So I'm giving those guys a 6% pref return on their money. So if my project is getting me a 25% IRR, all of a sudden I'm only have to give them 6%, and my IRR goes from 25 to like 50. All right, so another really good way to bridge that capital. EB5, there's a huge, does anybody know what EB5 is? Or? All right, so EB5, you probably know because it's on the HR side in Europe, but EB5 is a program started back in the Reagan days. And it's a green card program. It's a way of getting foreign investment into the U.S. and then ultimately that investor gets a green card. All right, so it's a minimum of $500,000 investment into a project. It creates jobs, and they, at the end of the time, get a green card. Really, really shady, horrible reputation of EB5 in the U.S. But I found a way to have the big guys in the world, big lenders of the world, the Bank of America, Wells Fargo's, that have never done EB5. I'm doing 2 projects right now, my Charlotte job and my Greenville job with EB5 Capital. Same, I do it as a mezzanine loan, so those regional centers give me a mezz loan in the 6% range as opposed to getting traditional mezz loan where you're in the 18% range. And I can I can go into a lot of detail on that, so if anybody wants some info on that, I can help you guys through that. The key there is you can only do EB5 traditionally in target employment areas. So again, it's really looking to see if you have target employment areas to do that.
But a disclaimer of being super careful, right?
Yeah. you have to make sure, when I go back to that whole shady thing, you have to make sure you align yourself with the right people to do EB-5. Because if not, your lenders won't go for it, and you have to structure it properly. So you really got to make sure you're aligning yourself with the right people. And then municipal. There's so many ways to get money out of the municipalities, whether it's the cities or the counties. In our project in Savannah, they're participating in our project to the tune of over $50 million. So they took out bonds, city bonds. What do you take a guess of what a city bond is costing in today's world? If it's a decent municipality, which I'm sure all of us are doing business in decent municipalities.
3%.
Yeah. A little bit under 3%. I just closed the bond actually last week for 2.8%. And they finance 100%, right? And so out of that 50 million municipal financing, part of it is they're just giving it to me, and the other part of it, I have to give it back. I have to pay it back. Over 30 years at 2.8%, 100% financing. Very easy ways to capitalize your projects if you are able to find a need that the municipality has, and you can do that. Tax abatements, there's a lot of ways you can get your municipalities to give you tax abatements. Job tax credits, huge one. So in the state of Georgia, if you are building in a distressed area, which I don't know how this downtown historic project in Savannah was in a distressed area, but it was considered a distressed area. So I'm getting, for every new employee that I'm paying over $11 an hour, which is almost everybody, for 5 years I'm getting a job tax credit of $3,750 per employee for 5 years. Right? So you just got to research and see if those stuff is out there available for you. And then obviously, you can get them to give you tap fees, waive tap fees, all that stuff. So again, make sure you're really seeing what's out there for you on the state and city side. Brand participation, that's really, if you're doing a flag like a Marriott, make sure you're really pushing that franchise fee to see what they can give you. Obviously, you're entering into a 20-year contract with them. Make sure that they're helping you out on the front side to build that project. And then again, on the equity partner side, I cannot stress how important it is to make sure you find a partner that's aligned with your investment horizon. So us as a family office, I want to make sure that I am aligning myself with like-minded partners. So one of my partners jokes with me that he thinks he's checking into Hotel California because he's never getting out of the deal, right? So he knows that he's buying into one of our projects and he's putting that into his kid's trust, and he'll just get dividends forever. So again, you want to make sure that you don't have, like I said, that gun to your head. Most New York money, venture capital money, private equity money, all that, they want to get out of a project in 5 years, turn that money and go to the next one. That puts a huge pressure on you as a developer because you don't know when the recession is going to come and if you're going to be able to get them out in 5 years. And if you can't get them out in 5 years, there's some nasty stuff that happens in those operating agreements when you're doing deals with those guys. So again, make sure you're aligning yourselves with like-minded investors. So I really only align myself with other family offices. So, and family offices, there's a gazillion out there. I mean, there's a ton of family offices out there. The last thing I want to talk about here is employment. Right now, I told you we have about 1,500 employees. We're about to double in size when these 3 hotels open. So we've had to find very unique ways to, how are you going to hire 1,500 people in today's workforce? So we've aligned ourselves with, in Savannah, that's where about 700 of those jobs are coming from, with the technical schools. We've actually created what we did was we built our model rooms inside the school. And now they have a way to go in and teach people how to do things. We actually wrote the curriculum. And anybody that from that technical schools that comes out with that certification, they're guaranteed a job with us. And we're getting people from that left and right. So make sure you're looking to see how you can align yourself with technical schools to provide your workforce. We do a lot of J1. So we work a lot with the foreign offices to get J1 students in. Unfortunately, those are only 1 year, but they come highly, highly trained when they're coming from the foreign countries as J1s. And then the other thing that we do is, again, going back to looking to see what's available from a municipality standpoint and the state side. The governments have workforce programs. So in Georgia, again, I keep going back to Georgia because that's the big project we have going on right now. There's a government agency called Workforce Georgia. They'll come in and they'll do all the hiring for you and all the training for you at no cost. So it's huge. So again, make sure you understand what's out there for you. Since there's not too many developers, I won't spend time on all this stuff. I'll show you some pictures of some of the stuff that we got going on. This is the latest picture from about 2 weeks ago of the inside of that generator hall where the power plant is. Again, this is the outside of the power plant. This is what the power plant will look like. This is actually going to open up by the end of the year. So you can see the scale of this. This is 2 scale. This is the project right here. And this is the historic district in Savannah. This is our rooftop bar, our lobby. This is our project in Charlotte. Again, this is that little park. Again, this is a 250-room hotel that we're building on 0.4 acres. Yep.
Can I ask, do I see a little bit of steampunk in that? Is that a word you actually use?
A what?
Steampunk?
Steampunk?
I guess not.
No.
Okay.
I don't know what that is.
Right? Is it? What do you say? Yeah?
It's Bohemian.
Oh.
A little bit? Right? Yeah? All right. Yeah.
And then this is our project in Greenville. Like I said, here it's on the waterfall. It's going to look like a mountain lodge. So, what questions can I answer of you guys? It's kind of.
What sort of occupancy rates do you target on your properties?
So obviously it depends on the market, but usually around low 80s stabilized. We do not like to go into the high 80s or low 90s just because you beat up the property too much.
Yep.
You rather bring it down and compress the rates and be able to push the rate up. And that's stabilized. Obviously, when you start up, you're going to probably be in the 60s.
Where do you guys get the inspiration for? Like you see the lobby pilots? You guys have a designated
So,
team?
yeah, so I didn't go into all those details. So, yeah, so one of the things that sets us apart is we have a full interior design team inside our corporate office. So we do not outsource concepting and design. So these are, again, like I mentioned, Richard's a developer. We do all that in-house. And every property is completely different. It's done based on, the surroundings of the property. Yeah. This property here is based off of Argentinian. So if you look at, has a lot of reds and golds. A lot of tango. We actually took some pictures of people dancing tango underwater. And so we have a lot of imagery about that. The carpet in the corridors looks like a tango skirt. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. What does a fourth quarter check-in your organization, because you are so much larger, about to get very large?
Mm-hmm.
what does a fourth quarter senior management team session look like when you're comparing where you are now versus what you had anticipated from your strategic plan you had? What does that look like today? Is there a
Yeah, I mean, so again, we have an executive team, obviously, like everybody else does, but we reforecast every month, so I pretty much know what what the full year looks like all the time. So yeah, obviously there's variances. The fourth quarter for us is actually a pretty good quarter. We have a lot of properties in the mountains, so the fourth quarter for us is always operationally a great quarter, which is interesting because the summer is actually our worst quarter, which most hospitality companies, the fourth quarter is their best quarters.
Yeah.
But we continuously review our projections. Again, our executive team, that's one of their, I mentioned the engagement survey is one of the things that they get measured on. They get measured on forecast accuracy as well. So I make sure that those guys are really staying on top of their forecasts.
I can imagine just the doubling of the workforce and what that's going to mean in managing the
Yeah.
results next year.
Mhm.
I had a question based on that. You guys are doubling so fast, and obviously I can tell by you guys' work, you guys are really into the quality of the work, not
Right.
the quantity. How are you guys going to maintain that same quality, doubling in size fast?
So what we do is we make sure, that's some of the stuff that I put on there that I didn't go through because of timing, but we make sure that every new property has a minimum of half of their executive committee coming from an existing property, right? The other thing we do is if they're not coming from an existing property, before they go and start at the other properties, they have to go and task force at one of our existing properties. Because again, culture and delivering on that experience is critical to us. So each hotel usually has somewhere around 10 executive committee positions. So we usually try to get 4 to 5 coming from. So like our Charlotte property is going to open in March, so in 6 months. We already have 5 people from existing properties already committed to go over there. Not the GM, we hired the GM externally, but that GM now is working for the next 2 months at our hotel in St. Augustine to train. So again, it all comes from the top. As long as you train the leadership properly, that leadership pushes down the culture.
So the top is where it starts at?
Yep.
I was just wondering, you mentioned earlier that when you're looking for spaces, that you put hotels where people want to go.
Right.
Does that, I would imagine that that means a majority of your bookings come from leisure? Or is there more business with?
Depends. So Grand Bohemian Orlando, downtown Orlando, is very, very business transient centric. You go to another property like St. Augustine, it's mostly it's leisure. So it depends. This property in Charlotte is going to be primarily a business, very similar profile to Grand Bohemian Orlando. So it depends on where it's going.
The properties that you mentioned that are doing more revenue in your dining services, are those in the smaller towns or the smaller cities?
Yeah. Yeah, and there are also smaller hotels. Like our sweet spot for hotels are somewhere in the 120 to 150 room size. So, yeah, like one of our properties in Savannah, they'll do 15 million in revenue, and they'll do 8 million in food and beverage, and about 6 million in rooms, and then other ancillary.
Must have a good top line.
Yep.
My question as a specialty contractor, you're a developer, how do you advertise so we can be a part of your projects? How do you advertise when you're doing the construction of a new hotel?
Well, obviously on our website, but we do construction administration, but we actually hire a general contractor. So we're not really, dealing directly with the subs, unless it's a sub that we know that we really want to bring in. But Now, obviously, on existing projects, our in-house teams does that, but new development, so on new development, we hire the general contractor. We have our own in-house construction administration team that oversees the general contractor, and then we do all the design in-house. But so most of the stuff is directly done by the general contractor. So, I mean, I guess we really don't. I'm trying to think how we advertise what we're building besides new stuff on our website. Obviously on our Twitter accounts and Facebook and whatnot, we advertise stuff in there of what we're doing than just our regular website.
Thank you.
Hmm? All right, well, thank you very much for having me.